All right, so thank you for coming and welcome back. So continuing our Japanese theme, this week I'm circling back to a collector who is associated with both Akira Noguchi and Masami Mizutani, and that is S. Hattori, which is a name anyone who has worked with our Japanese graphite specimens is likely to have seen. He collected this particular specimen with Masami Mizutani in August of 1864. And it was collected near Sennen Falls above Nagorigao, north slope of Mount Ontake, Gifu Prefecture. And so for reference, the Gifu Prefecture is here, kind of in the center of the big island of Japan. And I was able to find Sennen Falls. So there's a Sennen Daki, and the Daki or even Taki seems to mean falls in Japanese. And it's in a series of 3 waterfalls. And you can see ours closer here. And the website said it is a beautiful moss-grown area with a slight sulfuric smell. And that's because it is upstream from the Nagorigo onsen. And an onsen is a hot springs, which you can see here. And it's also referenced in our locality up here. And then I even found this nice trail map online showing, you can see the hot springs and the 3 waterfalls. And so our specimen was collected up here at the top waterfall, which is near Mount Ontake, which is here, and also again in our locality. And then this is just a photo of that mountain, which is the 2nd highest volcano in Japan after Mount Fuji. So kind of an interesting locality. So the specimen is here. It's Nippano Legunia subalpina, and it's another liverwort species, which was growing on tree bark. So you can kind of see it mixed here on these pieces of bark. And I found this picture of the same species growing in the wild in Japan. And here is a closer photo, which you can kind of see its cool looking structure. So S. Hattori was Sinske Hattori, a Japanese bryologist. He was born in 1915 in Nichinan, Miyazaki-ken, and you might remember that ken means prefecture, and that is down in the southern part of Japan here. His family owned and operated a tree plantation, mostly of cryptomeria, which is a large evergreen tree known as Japanese cedar or Japanese redwood, and they're cultivated for timber and also ornamental uses. I saw some pictures of them as bonsai trees. So he went to school at the Obi Middle School and graduated in March of 1933 at the age of 17. He attended the Miyazaki Higher Agricultural School from April to October of that same year, and then spent 4 years at the 7th Higher School in Kagoshima. After that, he enrolled in 1937 at Tokyo Imperial University, which is today the University of Tokyo. And he was an undergraduate student there from 37 to 40, and a graduate student from 1940 to 41. And he was obviously interested in bryophytes, and he published his first paper describing a new variety of liverwort in 1940. After graduating, he worked at the Tokyo Science Museum, which is now the National Museum of Nature and Science. And he was there for 5 years, and I didn't have exact details about what he was doing, but presumably he was working on bryophytes, and he continued to publish more papers on liverworts. And it said that recognizing his interest and talent, his father, Shinji Hattori, established the Hattori Botanical Laboratory Foundation in March of 1946 in their hometown of Nichinan. And it was financed by income from their extensive cryptomeria forests, as well as some subsidies from the Japanese Ministry of Education a couple years later. And Sinske became its first director. In 1947, he established the Journal of the Hattori Botanical Laboratory, and he oversaw all aspects of the publication. He was later helped by Zenosuke Iwatsuki and Masami Mizutani. It was originally published entirely in Japanese, but over time it began to add articles in other languages. Our former Herbarium director, A.J. Sharp, was an associate editor for a time on the publication, and it became internationally recognized and acclaimed. He gained his Doctor of Science degree from the Tokyo Imperial University in 1948, and his thesis on liverworts from Yakushima was published in their journal. He made major contributions to the hepatic genus Frulania, studying those specimens and creating detailed drawings and descriptions. And he also worked on the smaller liverwort genus Porella. As director of the Hattori Botanical Lab, he hired and trained a team of bryologists, including some of the collectors we've already talked about. And the focus was mainly mosses and liverworts, but they did add a lichenologist in the 1970s. And that team focused largely on Japanese taxa, but starting in the 1960s, the lab sent collectors and expeditions outside of the country to a number of locations. A lot of those were areas around the Pacific Ocean, but they also went to the Himalayas and to East Africa. A number of those expeditions were conducted in partnership with the University of Tennessee and collector A.J. Sharp. And so we have obviously a lot of those specimens here at our herbarium. So these activities helped create an herbarium over 200,000 specimens by 1971, and that has grown to over 500,000 bryophytes and 20,000 lichens as of 2021. And they have a reference library that includes over 25,000 books and journals and on bryophytes and lichens and 25,000 prints. So Sinske himself collected mostly in Japan. And it said that he wasn't able to spend as much time in the field as he wished because of ongoing kind of poor health. He spoke about his horizontal life, lying in bed and having to visit the hospital a lot. He was sensitive to extreme temperatures and ironically allergic to the pollen of the cryptomeria trees. And he was also responsible for managing his family's forestry business, which took time away from his research. But despite that, he corresponded widely and exchanged specimens with a number of international bryologists. In 1945, he became an honorary member of the American Bryological Society. In 1959, he made his first trip to North America for the International Botanical Congress that was held in Montreal, where he was able to meet some of the bryologists he had corresponded with for so long. And it seems that during that trip, he made a stop at our nearby Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and he collected this specimen here with A.J. Sharp on the Appalachian Trail at Newfound Gap, which I thought was kind of neat. So the lab hosted and continues to host a lot of visiting bryologists and lichenologists, and Hattori helped to encourage Japanese researchers, especially young bryologists. He passed away in 1992 at the age of 77, but one of his sons, Shinpei Hattori, is on the current board of directors for the Botanical Lab. So during his career, Sinske Hattori described or revised over 1,000 bryophyte taxa. His bibliography covers 18 pages, so this is just the first and the last. And you can see he was publishing from 1940 all the way to 1991, so the year before he passed away. And the Botanical Lab published many important works, including Elva Lawton's Moss Flora of the Pacific Northwest, the Illustrated Moss Flora of Japan from Akira Noguchi. They issued 6 sets of hexacoti from mosses, liverworts, lichens, and algae. And they continue to produce a lot of other publications, including the current journal Hattoria. So in 1970, he was awarded the Purple Ribbon Medal for his work in Japanese botany. And after his death in 1993, a monument was erected honoring his bryological achievements in the Inoue Valley, which is an area rich in bryophytes. And there are also 6 genera and over 50 species and subspecies that were named after him. So in our portals, I found a little over 1,500 bryophytes that he collected, just 3 lichens, 77 vascular plants, and I found a little over 200 records on GBIF. Similar to Masami Mizutani last week, he is the determiner on a ton of additional specimens. I think at least 800 here at Tennessee alone, and we're obviously adding more to that total all the time with this project. So that is Dr. Sinske Hattori, and I'll end again with a quote from one of his memorial articles, which said, "Sinske Hattori has been a major force in international bryology. He accomplished this through his dedication to and affection for bryophytes and his willingness to apply his financial resources to advancement and propagation of a better understanding of them. His warm and generous friendliness to botanists has further encouraged the development of bryology and lichenology in its diverse biological and human implications, the creation and publication of the journal, the foundation of the laboratory and support of its active and productive personnel, and the immense influence of these interactions has had a profound influence on bryology that will serve as an immortal memorial to him. Those of us who have known him as a friend and colleague have been greatly privileged. Future bryologists will also celebrate him and his influence as long as bryophytes are studied." So pretty impressive legacy. And you can visit the Hattori Botanical Laboratory today. It's still there. I follow them on Instagram, and they're continuing, obviously, the important work that he started. So thank you again for listening.